The Weekly Pour Podcast, proving time and time again that success is 1% inspiration, 98% perspiration, and 2% attention to detail. Here are your hosts, TbT and Ace.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Sean Thomas.
I'm Jake.
I'm Jordana. I'm Kara. And we're from Destin, Florida. Listening to the Weekly Pour Podcast with TbT and Ace.
What's up, guys? Cassandra Carson here from Paralandra and the Life Project, and you're listening to the Weekly Pour Podcast.
Hey guys, it's Leather Leone, and you're listening to the Weekly Pour. Great metalheads, crazy music, because we all bleed metal. Ciao.
My name's Reggie, and you are listening to the Weekly Pour Podcast. Thanks so much for joining the most amazing twosome out there.
Hey, this is Chef Jason from Bad Company Barbecue, and you're listening to TbT and Ace on the Weekly Pour Podcast.
This is Kathy from Music and More Records in New Hartford, New York, providing you with all of your music needs. You are listening to the Weekly Pour Podcast with TbT and Ace. Rock on, guys!
The Weekly Pour Podcast, proving time and time again that success is 1% inspiration, 98% perspiration, and 2% attention to detail. Here are your hosts, TbT and Ace.
What's up, guys? It is me. It is TbT. That guy over there is Ace. And smack dab in the middle of us is a former lead singer of the Scream, Union, the Dead Daisies, and of course Motley Crue, and a self-proclaimed, and we agree, #1 author of Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome John Corabi to the show. John, how are you?
I'm good, buddy.
Well, first off, welcome. I know you're suffering from a little bit of jet lag with your trip all the way from Europe, so hopefully you'll be able to manage for the next few hours.
Yeah. It's all good, man. I'm ready to do this.
Outstanding. We've got our chat room going right now. I want to say hey to Natalie, who's our moderator. We've got Kathy in, Shannon's there, Petra all the way from Germany has joined us. Lou is in the house. Anybody's got any questions or whatever, be sure to post them on the chat and we'll get them to John. Ace, I'm going to let you jump right in here because I know you've got a lot of questions for John.
First of all, are the Eagles going to win?
I've got my fingers crossed, buddy. You know what? I have to be honest with you. After that finish this weekend with Jacksonville and the Los Angeles Chargers,
Right.
anything possible. So I just keep my fingers crossed and wish for the best. You know what I mean?
Well, I will tell you here in Indiana, we are done taking your coaches. We are done taking your quarterbacks. We've got 2 of those and they're broken. We're done. So you can have them back if you want.
No, I'm good where we're at. I'm fine.
I didn't know you were going to start off talking football.
Well, he's a Philly guy.
Well, I know, but that puts me in a bad spot being a Cowboy fan.
Oh,
look at the time. I
See?
gotta go.
Damn
So
it.
what were you
know
doing
what?
in Europe?
It's I do have to say, first of all, I'm very proud of all the teams in the NFC East. We got 3 of the 4 still in the playoffs. Dallas is a great team. San Francisco's a great team. The Giants, not expected to be where they're at this year. It was supposed to be a rebuild, and they're kicking ass. So may the better man win. Whatever.
Yep, exactly. As long as the Commanders or the Commodores or whatever they call themselves this year didn't make it, I'm happy.
Yeah, whatever.
Hey, John,
So
just real quick. Petra, who's in the chat, says much love from Crab Mafia in Berlin.
Yes, Petra actually came to quite a few shows that I just did. She came to Virt, quite a few shows. I don't remember all of them, but she's a sweetheart. Actually, you know what's funny? I have quite a few. I don't like to use the term fans, but fans that I've become friends with, and she's definitely one of them. And they started a little group, um, whatever. And I was kidding with the group, and I said, "Oh, you should call it the Crab Mafia." And so they changed the name of the group, and like just kidding around. But they're very loyal, and I love them all. They're awesome. So,
and for
She
those
said
that don't know,
all the shows in Holland and Germany.
yes,
That's
quite a few.
dedication. That's dedication.
Especially if you realized how long it took her to get to said shows. I think there was some sort of train delay, and it wound up the first show she came to was like supposed to be like a 3.5, 4 hour train ride. It wound up being like 9 hours, and but she showed up.
Damn.
She was bells and whistles and ready to rock. So um, her and the rest of the Crab Mafia, I thank you.
Absolutely. That's dedication for sure.
Yes.
so was this your a European little tour you were doing just recently? Then
Yeah, I did a bunch of shows in Switzerland, France, Germany, Belgium, uh, Holland, and then a bunch in the UK. And I had a blast. I was over there for about, I think, 7.5, 8 weeks. And you know what? Honestly, after the COVID thing, it was just really good to get back to work. Um, there's still
Sure.
still a little bit of a struggle uh, throughout Europe right now with the prices of fuel and ticket prices and just all that shit. So it was good. It wasn't great. It was good, but you know, I want to take this moment to all the people that did come to the shows. Thank you. You know what I mean? It was awesome.
Now, did you have a touring band with you, or was this acoustic shows, or what?
It was just me, acoustic. And again, it's just obviously as a musician, not being able to work for almost 3 years. You know, if I can be frank, I just wanted to go over, do some shows, and just put a little money back in my bank account before I get my. I get a few things lined up for 2023, but I do want to get my band up and running and start getting out and doing. I miss playing with a band.
Sure.
You're right.
But it's just been easy for me to pack up an acoustic guitar in a suitcase and go do my thing. So I'm just trying to get my
There's
name back and
low
let
overhead
people
there.
live.
That's
What
low
now?
overhead right there.
Yeah, it's low overhead. I still get to go out and see people, tell them what I'm doing. We were there actually, to be honest with you, it was kind of a promote the book tour. So it was good. It did everything I wanted it to do, and I had a great time. And now I'm back, and it's a new year, and bigger, better, faster things happening. Hopefully,
Absolutely. How were your crowds? Were they pretty decent after the onset of COVID and all that?
it was okay. A few of the shows were sold out, but for the most part, it was a little bit light. But a lot of the promoters said, everybody over here bitches about, whatever your political beliefs are. We want to blame somebody. So, the rising cost of fuel and food and just all the shit. It's not just in America, man. It's everywhere. And I was literally in some clubs in the UK especially, they were kind of nervous, man. Some of these club owners are like, I don't know if I'm going to be here next year.
Wow.
Their fuel costs to like heat their buildings went from hypothetically like 250 a month to 1,000 a month. And you got uh, the fuel for gas, which affects trains, buses, airplanes, just everything. So it's really kind of a global thing that's happening right now. It's not just in America. It's not our Congress's fault or president's fault. I think it's the fallout of 3 years of COVID. And, people are just trying to get caught up and they're just trying to get their feet on the ground. So nobody complained uh, about the attendance. Nobody lost money. Everybody did okay. And I just got my name out there, and I just got to play for a bunch of loyal fans, and we promoted the book, and like I said, now I come home, regroup, hopefully finish my record, put my band together, and I've got a few other things in the works that I'm working on as we speak.
Excellent. I know you've mentioned the book, and that tour was out, kind of trying to promote it or anything. Ace, if you can reach it, if you can hold that up. This book I highly recommend to anybody that wants a good autobiography. Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. John's put this together, and it's a damn good read so far from what we've both made it through.
And I do want to give a tip of the hat to my buddy Paul Miles, who actually talked me into doing the book, and actually was instrumental in helping me write it. So hats off to him as well. And I can't thank him enough he's done a few books in the past, so he kind of knew how this whole thing worked. But, it is what it is. Again, like, I didn't really want to do a book in the beginning, but Paul talked me into it. And so far, the feedback's been really super positive. So I'm just grateful.
How do you approach writing a book? When you're used to writing songs, writing music, and all that, how do you make that approach to writing a book? That's something I've never done. I know Ace actually has a book out there on the Amazons, so he's got a lot more knowledge than I do about it.
Well, it's for me, this thing, again, I didn't know what I was doing, and I kind of started trying to write it myself. And I guess as a songwriter, you kind of have to learn how to tell a story in 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. So it was just being a little more elaborate, but the way we did it, Paul, again, he kind of did a ton of research. And for those that don't know Paul, um, sorry, there's a plane going over. Uh, Paul has a website.
Yeah, this is when
Okay,
you know we're live.
this hour interview could turn into a 4 hour interview. Anyway, uh, Paul's got a website called Chronological Crew, and he's like the master researcher. And I mean, he really dove deep into the Motley stuff to the point when they did the book. They actually reached out to Paul to make sure that all of the timelines and a lot of the things that they were saying were correct. Um, he also helped, I believe, with the movie a little bit as well. So he's written a few books on his own, and he talked me into this. So what we did was he researched a bunch of shit. Then what we would do is, like, every Friday night my time, Saturday morning his time, because he was in Australia,
Right.
we would talk and he would record the conversations. And he would ask me things. Oh, like, where did you grow up? What was your neighborhood like? Where were you born? Blah, blah, blah. And I would just start blabbing away. And he recorded everything and he kind of put it into a book form. We did this for fuck, like a few months, interviews almost on a weekly basis. And then he put it in a book form, sent it to me. I went through it, read the whole thing. I took things out, I added some things. So I did my edits, then I sent it back to him, and we did this 7, 8, 10 times.
Oh
And
wow.
then really felt like we had a complete um, like a complete story that read well. We just gathered up some pictures and all that other kind of stuff, and we put it all together and we sent it to Rarebird, or we sent it out, and Rarebird really jumped on it right away, and they said we love this. So we just said, you know what, fuck it, let's go, and we did it with them, and they've been great. So I really have to give the hats off. Paul really did a majority of the work. Do you know what I mean?
Right. It reads really well. It flows really well.
Well, and the thing,
I'm
like, and I had started writing this with a few other people in the past, but where'd you go? Wait,
We're still
We're-
here. There you are.
yeah, I am. It's so weird, man. My phone keeps giving me like notices, and somebody calls, and then it just shuts everything off. Um, uh, I had started writing this with a couple of other people, God, 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I'm glad I waited because I had way more to talk about. But
right.
at the end of the day, I just wanted it to sound like I was sitting right next to you while you were reading the book and I was telling you the story. I had a couple fans kidding with me, and they were like, God, who was it? Somebody was just talking to me. They're like, hey, man, how many times did you say fuck in the book? Like, dude, that's how I talk. You know what I mean? I wanted it to sound like me, period. And
Exactly.
there was a couple little things, even with Paul, um, him being Australian, like I say things like mom or mother, and he says mum. So I had to go in and go, dude, I don't say mum. Stop with the English bullshit. Like, come on. So it was like me making it sound like it was me. He really wanted to make it sound like it was me, and but that was again, 8 or 10 editing back and forth things that I think we nailed it.
Absolutely.
How does it help? It has to help to have someone sitting there asking you questions in order to remember things in such detail, because it's pretty detailed and pretty comprehensive, I think.
Well,
And
it took a minute because there were some names I forgot. Like, and I would be telling a story, and then I would, and so he would write, blah blah blah, and in parentheses, like fill in the name, and then I would just have to sit there and think about it, and so it wasn't like I just off the cuff I remembered these names or places or times. Like there was some things I had to think about, but again, he just researched John Corabi, and he asked me great questions. And I think it helps too because Paul, is now a friend, but he's kind of looks at things from a fan point of view. Like he was like, well, as a fan, I think this is really interesting. Do you know what I mean? So I just said, all right, like if you think it's interesting, great. You know what I mean? Because
right.
I, it's hard for me to go, oh, I think this would be really interesting to all my, whatever. So I just kind of gave him free rein to put in what he thought was interesting as a fan,
Well, now kudos to Paul, but I mean, really kudos to you too, because if you look at your career and everything you've done and everyone you've worked with, I mean, your life has basically been a who's who of rock music. And that's just in what we know as fans of yours. So I mean, the kudos goes to you as well.
Well, I appreciate it. And that's one of the things that I know a lot of the fans have kind of over the years asked me, like, why I've been in so many bands. And honestly, it's just my career's like a poker hand. I went in the Scream. I wish I was talking to you about the 15th Scream album. But unfortunately, that wasn't the set of circumstances that were dealt to me. I did what I thought was the right thing with each thing. And, it just played out the way it played out. I try to do the best that I can with every one of the bands that I've been in. And, I never thought any of them would end. But it's kind of like every time you get into a relationship with a girl, you're like, oh, this is the one, dude. This is the one. She lets me watch football on Sundays. She's like, she's smart. She's this. She's that. She's got porn star qualities and all these things. And then, gradually you start seeing, okay, maybe there's some flaws here that I didn't see in the beginning.
Yeah, it wasn't porn star. It was like National Lampoon.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. So you figure it out as you go and you make the best of it. I don't regret anything. Everything that I did for a reason. Whatever the reason was, the universe gives you weird things at weird times, and I made the best of it. It is what it is.
Right, and the title of the book is appropriate in some ways, horseshoes and hand grenades, because that's what only counts when you're close in those two things. But on the other hand, you've done a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, you've made the most out of what you've had, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's like, is the glass half empty or is the glass half full? I tend to remind myself how blessed I am that I have been able to play with people like the guys from the Scream, and then I was blessed to be in Motley Crue. And regardless of whether you love me or hate me or like the record or don't like the record, I will hold the asterisk next to Motley Crue's name. I was in Union. I was in the Dead Daisies. I've I was in another little side project with Jerry Cantrell and Billy Duffy. So I've been really, really blessed to be able to call some of these guys friends, play with some of them, collaborate, whatever. And, but the flip side is, if I want to look at the glass half empty, yes, I've done some unbelievably great things, but I still haven't managed to become a household name. Or you know what I mean? Not like a Steven Tyler or a Mick Jagger or Robert Plant or Vince Neil or whoever. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of evaded me a little bit. So hence the name, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. I'm the king of being at the right place, but always at the wrong time.
Well, the cool thing though, the Motley record you did, I think over time has grown on people. I mean, when it came out, I know I was kind of like, whatever, John Corabi, whatever. But over time, you sit and listen to it, and you're like, holy crap, this is a hell of a
fucking good record.
It's a great record.
And you know what's funny? But every record I've ever done has been that way. It's the weirdest thing. I can't put my finger on it, but I always tell like all my musician friends, anytime I do an interview, whatever, like I've had people ask, like, why are you not, more famous or more, and talent's one thing, taking care of yourself and trying to do the right thing and best thing is another thing. Fucking plane again. But one of the main things, and you can say whatever you want, but a huge ingredient in success is luck. And, when I did the Scream album, I remember being in England and Nirvana being over there and playing their first couple shows. And then things started to change. Next record I did was with the Kings of 80s, Motley, in the height of the grunge era. And, so it's just, again, not to sound weird, but my path, when I made a turn, it was always the right thing to do, but always at the wrong time. The timing wasn't right. And I think that's one of the main things that I've kind of figured out as I get older. It's like, dude, you can do the best you can do. It's like recording a record. You write the best songs you can. You record them the best you can. You do the best vocal you can. You mix it the best that you can. And then you turn it over to the record label. And you hope that every cog in that wheel does the best that they can. And then the last final thing, dude, is luck. Like, somebody has to pick whatever that single is, and they just got to run with it. And once you do that, you start bringing in more people. More people start telling more people about you, and and it is what it is. I don't. Again, it's luck. It's just luck.
Right, and you're probably thinking it's just my luck. I get in Motley Crue, but in 1994,
to be honest, I was not thinking about that at the time.
Right.
At the time, I was just happy to be there. And we were writing, in my opinion, some great shit. And everybody was, once they heard the stuff, they were like, what? This is great. And I mean, not to be weird, but like, I remember playing this stuff for the guys from Brother Kane, who were massive Motley fans.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? This is, and the guys from Pantera came to the studio and they heard the shit before it even came out. And they were like, dude, this is insane. And, Glenn Hughes and Billy Preston. And, so we were running the gamut of all these people that were like, this is great shit. So I knew we were, I knew the record musically was really good stuff. I was happy to be there. We're writing great stuff. And once we played the record for Bob Krasnow at Elektra, even he said, oh my God, this is the best fucking thing you guys have ever done in your entire career. This record is so musical and it's unbelievable. So, like, I wasn't even thinking about, the what ifs of grunge or anything like that. Bob Rock sat me down and he said, this record is every bit as good as the Metallica Black record.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, no shit.
Now I'm talking to the guy that was responsible for both albums.
Right.
He's saying this is every bit as good as that. Now, he looked at me and he goes, Crab, if this thing sells, you are going to be pegged as a musical fucking genius. But if it fails, you're going to be the villain.
You're Gary Sharon.
Exactly. And, I was just laughing with Gary. I forget where I saw him. There was like Monsters on the Mountain Festival. And we were kidding. We were in the production office. And I was kind of fucking with him, told him we need to start a club called the Losers Club. He's just laughing about it. But he's a great dude. He's super fucking talented, nice guy.
Yeah.
And, it's same with him. He was in the right place, wrong time. You know what I mean? Whatever.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. So what was it like working with Bob Rock? That's someone I don't know that much about as far as producers. You hear about, these other ones, but I don't know much about Bob Rock.
Bob's a genius. I love working with him. He's a songwriter. He's a great producer, great engineer. He had the tapes way before we started the record, and he really mapped out everything in his head. He knew the songs that he wanted to tear down and rework again. Like he found what for lack of a better term, weak spots in just about all the songs. And he said, okay, this part's great. This part's great. This part, not so much. I think we need to, and we did that. We sat up there in Vancouver and we tore those songs apart to the bare minimum and then rebuilt them again. And if something wasn't up to par, we changed it and we rewrote it. And God, there was songs. Nikki and I wrote lyrics for, I think it was Welcome to the Numb 5 times.
Wow.
Right.
And we just kept playing with everything. But Bob's got a way of, without busting your balls, he's got this psychological game he plays with you to make you want to give him a better whatever. So I would do a vocal and I would do like 3 or 4 vocals and we'd go in and he would listen to them and he'd go, what do you think? And I go, well, I like number 2. I thought that one was pretty cool. And he's okay, great. And then he'd let me live with it for a little bit. And then he would listen to it again and he would go, are you cool with this? And I go, yeah, I think it sounds cool. And he go, and here's where the psychological part come in. He go, okay, well, if you're good with it, I'm good with it.
Like, wait a minute.
Say it the way he would say it, you'd go, motherfucker, you wait. You know what? Get the mic back up. I'll fucking show you. You know what I mean? And then you
Right.
go back out and you sing the song again with a little more fervor, and fervor. And it was like, holy shit. Like, okay. And then he would go, Crab, that's the one. You know what I mean? Same with Tommy. I think it was, I think it was Hooligan's Holiday. And Tommy had done a few drum takes. And then he just walked up to Tommy and he goes, it's pretty cool, but I think you can do better. He goes, you know what? Don't think. Just go out, listen to the song, be the song, and beat the shit out of your drums. And the version that you hear is that last take that Tommy did from top to bottom. No cut-ins, no bullshit. Bob just got under his skin in a cool way, and
Yeah.
Tommy went out and fucking crushed it.
Yeah,
And when Bob, first guy on the thing, and said, that might be the greatest drum track I've ever heard in my life.
Wow.
Well done.
Now, was he doing the same thing with Mick as well?
Yep. He would do the same thing with Mick. He'd go, Mick, why don't you work on a solo and then come in tomorrow and lay a solo down? And Mick go, okay, yeah. He'd go home and he'd have a couple shots and he would sit there and listen to the song and work up the solo and come in. And Bob would just go, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, it was cool. I'm good with it if you are. And then
Shit, here we go again.
Yeah, Mick's like, you know what? Fuck you. I'll be back tomorrow. And he would work on it. And it was just, he just had this way of not being an asshole about it, but just kind of letting you know that he thought you could do better. You were settling. And I loved it. It was awesome.
Have you worked with him since?
Unfortunately, no. Bob lives, I think he does most of his recording now in Hawaii. But I
Nice place.
well, it was weird, dude. Like, to be honest with you, he's really good friends with Tommy, really good friends with Nikki, and I just kind of felt that when I left that camp and all the shit we went through, I just kind of stopped reaching out to everybody in that camp. And I was like, I didn't want to get into a he said, she said. I didn't want them to, whatever. So when I walked away from it all. It's unfortunate, but whatever.
Since we've opened that door, and this is not to get a soundbite for Blabbermouth, with when you found out, or when I don't know how it transpired, but when Vince was coming back and that meant John was leaving, were you able to walk away with your head held high with what you were able to produce with that album and everything, or did you go through a moment or a little bit of time where you're like, what the fuck did I do? Why am I getting shit on?
No, musically, I again had no regrets. The thing that I was worried about was, without getting into too many details, I was given a substantial amount of money in the very beginning of joining Motley. So, 92. And my thing that I was worried about was money. You got to remember, I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment with a wife and 2 kids and a dog, and I was living within my means. And then all of a sudden I get this Motley gig, and due to some circumstances, if you read the book, I got mugged. There was a couple crazy things that happened, a gunfight right at the end of my street. And Tommy and the guys were like, we need to get him out of here. And I was kind of talked into moving closer to them, which meant more money, better school for my kids, which at the time I was like, okay, no big deal. Now, the way my contract was set up, I got a lot of money from them and my record label that wanted to kind of do my publishing advances, if you will. And I did that, and I lived off of that, the entire time I was in Motley. Now I'm literally talking about going from a $600 a month apartment to a $2,500 a month house. My kids are in better schools. I've got a new car. My wife's got a new car. Nothing fancy. Like, I had a Ford Bronco. My wife had a Honda Civic. Like health care for my kids and my wife. And then I had to have, because I was like in Motley, I had a corporation, and I had to have a life insurance policy. It was fucking, I'm like, what? Life insurance? What do you know what I mean? And so I lived off of that money for 4 or 5 years, as well as paid the taxes on it. And it was crazy. Like, I remember my first year paying taxes, I was literally throwing up in my mouth. And I went to the gym one day. I was talking with Nikki, and I go, holy shit, dude. I just had to write a fucking check for $119,000 for taxes. And Nikki goes, yeah, okay. I wish I had to pay $119,000 in taxes. And then he told me this whole story. Like, he goes, dude, when we got done the Feel Good tour, he goes, we each paid $1.6 million in taxes.
Oh my!
So there was taxes my higher cost of living. So I lived on that money for 4 years. So when they came and said, "Hey, we got to get Vince back," as much as I understood it, I walked out of that building and I got into my new car that I traded in, and I was driving home and I went, "Holy shit, how am I going to fucking pay for all this shit?" Now I'm separated from my wife. I've got child support payments, like all this shit. And it was crazy. So
Right.
I was freaking out about that. I never had an issue about the music we wrote together. I was more concerned at that point when they brought Vince back, like, is this move that I just made, like, not, I can't even say just made, because I think at that point I'd been in the band almost 5 years.
Wow.
I was like, did this move that I make just ruin me financially and ruin, do you know what I mean? Like, how am I going to take care of my family? So that was the thing that I was really worried about.
It was like one thing, it was there, and it was all of a sudden just poof.
Well, it was all of a, there was nothing there. Then all of a sudden there was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. And then all of a sudden, like I can't say all of a sudden, um, again, you know, I got to be honest with you, looking back at it, I'm actually kind of proud of myself because it seems like a lot of money that I was given, and it was. But if you go uh, first year taxes, I'm lying. The first year in taxes, I paid $159,000, and the second year was more.
Wow.
Wow.
And my son was diagnosed with diabetes. You know, you have insurance, but there's deductibles. There's
Right.
other things. See, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. Uh, she had nothing. So I pretty much, and again, no regrets, but I took care of that situation. And then, moved my family into a nicer neighborhood. And, I didn't buy a house. I was renting it, but I was renting a home, two reasonably decent cars, nothing extravagant. My kids were in better schools, health insurance, life insurance, blah, 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 blah. And it, like, it whittles down that pot, over the course of almost 5 years. So I was like, holy shit. Like, so I'm proud of myself that I made it last 5 years, but I was freaking out at the end. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. How I'm going to make this work.
Right. And that's one thing in the book as well. There's a blue collar element to your life, especially in the beginning, and working these other jobs and trying to get this band going when you were in Angora or the Scream. So you were always doing something to provide for your family other than music. So
Dude,
when
it's funny. Like, I've never been, I just, it's my mindset. I'm never going to get out of it. One of the things that the guys used to laugh about, and I did eventually cave. They, when I first got in the band, I bought a 1990, it was either 1992 or three, uh, full size Ford Bronco with, fat tires, lifted. Like, that's what I bought, extravagant. I think I paid, uh, 30 grand for the thing at the time, maybe. And I bought my wife a Honda Civic.
right. So you're being smart.
But the thing of it is, they used to kid around with me in the beginning. They would tell me all these things about Vince and his sports cars and his this and his that. So when I came in, I remember one of the questions they asked me was, "Hey, dude, if you had $1 million, what kind of car would you buy?" And I was like, "Oh, I really love that new Ford, or Ford Bronco. I'd like to get one of those." Look, no, but if you could buy any car that and I was like, "No, I like the Ford Bronco." "Oh, okay, whatever." And they thought it was cool in the beginning. Towards the end, one of the beefs was, you know, with their management people, they would say, "Well, if you look at Tommy, he's a rock star. If you look at Nikki, he's a rock star. If you look at Mick, he's a rock star. You, my friend, are not a rock star." And like, what does that mean? I don't even know what the fuck that means. What, you know? So somebody, I don't know if it was Tommy or Nikki, one day they were busting my balls and they're like, "Oh, dude, like, as long as we've known you, you had the Bronco and then you traded it in on a Dodge Ram pickup truck. You're fucking the lead singer of Motley Crue, bro. You need to fucking show up. Like when you pull up to a club, you need to turn some heads." And I just heard it for a while and I went, okay, well, maybe there's some, all right, fuck it, whatever. So I took my pickup truck, I traded it in, and I bought 1996. It was literally right before the band told me they were bringing Vince back. And I went out and I bought this Pontiac, they made like 1,000 of this Pontiac Firebird WS6 Trans Am, whatever, with a Corvette engine, 6-speed, T-top. So I bought one.
Nice.
And it wasn't 3 months later, like, "You're out." And I,
Where's my truck?
yeah. So but I've always been like, I even kid now, like kidding my wife, and I guess everything's relative. You know, I think if I won, one of those Mega Million fucking lottery things, there is maybe one car that I might purchase. And and it's weird. I only, because I saw it in the Iron Man movie. I thought it was a cool looking car. Was the Audi R8 Spider.
Yeah.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I might even have second thoughts before buying the car and go, why don't you just get a 76 Corvette and rebuild it for like 100,000 less and call it a day?
Exactly.
I've just been, I don't want to say, I'm not a cheap person, but I've always been like, well, why would you buy a 20,000 square foot mansion for 16 million? Why isn't the $1 million mansion good enough? And then just invest the rest of the money, or, maybe start a charity, or, give your kids or your grandkids a little college fund or something, or whatever.
Right.
I've always been that mindset. So maybe I'm not a rock star.
Well, Jason Newsted was the same way when he'd be in the back, packing up all the lunch meat so he wouldn't have to go out and buy food at a restaurant. And they called him cheap too.
And again, it's like my wife, I mean, to this day, she goes, "You're like, you're, she goes, I've never seen a more generous person in your life. It's not like I'm cheap. I just look at things and go," even Tommy showed me his Testarossa one time. And I know nothing about cars, zero. And he let me take it for a ride. And I'm driving the car around, and I think we were still doing demos. And I'm in this black Testarossa. He lets me take it for a spin. He's sitting in the passenger seat. And I turn around and I looked at him and I go, "So, dude, if you don't mind me asking, like, what's a car like this cost?" Like, and I threw out a number that I thought was high. I go, like, 85, 90,000. And he goes, No, dude, this one was 265,000. And I was literally sitting in a left turn lane at an intersection, and I shut the car off. I got out of the car and I around, and I said, I'm not driving at another fucking inch. So he got back in the car and we went back to the studio. But all these years, I just sat there and I go, for $265,000, I could buy a house, completely convert it into a recording studio, use it to my benefit, and then it's property. It's something that could sell for more money later.
Right.
So I've just been
Well,
a little bit of logic.
You bring up in the book, speaking of extravagant expenses, I was just reading this, where Pamela Anderson throws a birthday party for Tommy, and you go, and a few other people go, and there's dancers and contortionists and all this stuff, and Ferris wheels and all this stuff, and you said it was something like $300,000 to throw a birthday party for Tommy Lee, which is insane. What could you do?
That I just sat there. It was with this girl Robin that I was dating at the time. We just went there and we were just shaking our heads the whole time, like, are you shitting me right now? Like, there's a full festival size stage for a band to play, and it was no band. It was just people jamming. And I go, okay. And then there's contortionists, and then there's a fire breathing guys and sword swallowers and midgets and or little people.
Little people.
And I'm so I'm looking at it, and then I find out the party was 300 grand, and I'm like, okay, motherfucker, I would have literally taken 290,000 of that, put it in the bank, and took 10,000 and took all my friends to Chuck E. Cheese, bitch. Like, seriously, are you kidding me right now? And so there was a lot of that kind of shit that I would just shake my head and go, fuck. Even the producer, Scott Humphrey, at one point, Nicky got pissed off about a piece of gear that he didn't know how to use in his outboard gear. And he got so mad, he ripped it out of his fucking outboard gear rack, took it out by his pool, got a pistol, and filled it with bullet holes. And Scott Humphrey was just sitting there shaking his head. And I looked at him, I go, right? I go, these guys are fucking out of their minds. And he goes, that piece of gear cost $4,500. And Nicky, just because he didn't understand it, he shot bullet holes in it. And okay, maybe that's rock star behavior, but I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I just never was comfortable with that whole thing. And there was not, and I'll get off this in a minute, but there was another time I went out with Tommy, and we went to the Viper Room, right. And Tommy turned to me and he goes, "Hey, Crab," and I go, "What?" And he goes, "Have you ever had Louis the 14th?" And I go, no. What is it? Oh, dude, it's this fucking badass, like, cognac or some shit, blah, 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 from Paris, and it's really great shit. Okay, great. So we ordered a shot. He orders me a shot, and he gets a shot. And we tap glasses, boom, and we fucking slam it. And like 10 minutes later, he goes, I forget how we got on the subject, but the cost of the Louis 14th came up. And he goes, "Oh yeah, dude, that's great shit, dude. Should be for fucking like $225 a shot."
Holy shit.
Holy shit.
And I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, dude, it's like $225 a shot or some shit, 125 or whatever the fuck it was." But I literally sat there at the bar for the rest of the night, throwing up in my own mouth so I could drink it again. I'm like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?" Like, dude, it's like that fucking Ruth Chris steak. You fucking chew it, you swallow, throw it back up so you can eat it again because it's like
Yeah.
$100 steak. I'm like, sorry, whatever.
Crazy.
I'll stick with my bourbon.
Right. In a lot of these interviews that you've done, inevitably, everyone's asking you about the situation with Mick, and you've expressed some doubts about Mick and how he was either left the band on his own accord or not. First of all, have you talked to Mick since any of this has started?
Nope.
Wow.
So you said until you hear it from him, basically you won't buy that he went out on his own. What
Now,
are we missing? Are we with his? They say guitar playing, but is it a problem with creativity? Is it a problem with his physical condition? What are we missing?
no, I mean, when I was doing the Generation Swine record, it was about his creativity. But and it's common knowledge, man. It's in the book as well. Like, as pleasurable as the first record was to those guys, Swine was the antithesis of the first record.
Right.
From
I've got some notes about that.
right, and again, and I don't mean this in any disrespect to Tommy or Nikki. I just think they were in over their heads as far as producing something. They opted to do the Generation Swine record and produce it themselves, which I think was a mistake. It's my opinion. I don't particularly care for that record, nor does Vince, nor does Mick. That record and the sounds that you hear on that record were solely uh, something that Nikki and Tommy wanted to do. They were really into, like, I can't even remember the song, but they were like, they even had shirts made up, like kidding around. Tommy, Nikki, and Scott, uh, like, you would record a guitar track and then it would run it through some weird filter to make it sound like not a guitar. And so, as a joke, they had these T-shirts made up called, how when you say, "Oh, I'm just throwing a wrench into it," you know what I
Right.
mean? So it was like they made these T-shirts up with a wrench on the front that said "Just Wrecking It Productions" as a joke. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
it was a joke. It was like, okay, how can we fuck this up? Take Tommy's drum sound and make it sound like trash cans,
Right.
and that's not Mick's cup of tea, nor was it mine. Vocally, but what happened was, once they told me I was out, they told me I was out of the band. They did ask me to help them finish the record. So what would happen was, I would get a call in the morning from Scott, say, "Hey, can you come in at 10 o'clock?" And I would go, "Yeah, sure. Like, what's up?" Sorry about the planes, guys.
No, it's all good.
So they would say, I would go, "What's up?" And Scott would say, or Nikki, one of the guys would get on the phone with me, and they would go, "We need you to come in and play some guitar, because Mick was here last night. We couldn't get anything out of him." And I don't think Mick totally understood. Like, not that he didn't understand it. He didn't. It wasn't his wheelhouse. Mick prides himself on tone.
Okay.
So for Mick to go in and waste 3 hours to get a great guitar tone, to have them run it through a filter pedal and ruin it, I think it kind of threw Mick for a curveball. I didn't care. I was like, all right, yeah, great. I'll come in, I'll play guitar, only if Mick is cool with it.
Right.
And I would go in and I would just sit there and I'd listen to the song, and Tommy would go, oh, do some sort of a riff here or riff there. And I would just play the riff, and then they would start fucking with shit and filters. I didn't care. I was detached. I was like, okay, great. I don't think Mick wasn't detached, but he was feeling the pressure from those guys about his lack of creativity as much as I was on the vocals.
Right. Because you talk about how they didn't like anything you did vocally during that period, I think.
Yeah, but it's like, but that's what I was saying. Like, the thing with Bob Rock was, or even now, still to this day, like Marty Fredrickson, I write a lot with Marty, and I may sing something, and Marty goes, yeah, it's really cool, dude, but I was thinking, like, on the end, maybe do something like, and he'll sing it to me, and he'll go something like this, which clicks the light bulb, and then you go, oh, okay, I totally understand what you're looking for. So it's a give and take thing. And vocally with those guys, at the end of the day, I'm a whiskey throated, cigarette smoking, raspy, bluesy singer. When I was on the first record, but what I was getting was feedback from those guys, and they would give me examples and say, oh, like David Bowie made Sisters of Mercy, made Manic Street Preachers. And then Scott would go, yeah, but like Cheap Trick. And then go, like, heavy, dude, like heavy, like Pantera, but lush like Oasis. And I'm just sitting there trying to process what they're wanting. And it wasn't fun. But like right now, if I get confused about something or I don't understand something, I've been blessed to work with the producers that I have worked with that could literally sit down. If there was something that I was doing that was like, it was okay, but it wasn't great, they could literally sit down with me and like either sing me or hum me something that would make the light bulb go off. But with them, I was sitting there, I would sing something that I thought was kind of cool, and they would go, yeah, no, that's not it. And I would go, okay, well, what are you hearing? And they couldn't hum me anything back, or they couldn't sing me anything back. They would just go, I don't know, dude, but that's not it.
Well, that's not helpful.
No kidding.
Well, and again, I don't want to throw them under the bus, because they were just kind of getting their feet wet as producers. But I think Mick was feeling it as well. And not to be weird, like Mick did the solos on Generation Swine. I guess I wasn't there, but I can tell you that all of the rhythm guitars, all the rhythm guitars are mine. So when this whole thing went down and I heard about it, and again, I will state that I did say, if I'm wrong, I will be the first to apologize publicly. But I don't feel like I'm wrong, because you got to remember, we started Generation Swine in 95.
Mm-hmm.
95, 2005, 2015. We're almost 30 years removed from them saying, Mick's, not whatever. You know, and even prior to that, there's certain people in the industry, a la Jakey Lee, who will say that Motley had approached him about replacing Vince then, or Mick then, when they
Wow.
were together. Um, so
Huh.
I don't know. All I know is Mick is radio silent, and all I said was the press statement that we heard was from Motley's camp.
And nothing from Mix Camp.
Right.
Nothing.
Right. And we've been waiting for a Mick Mars solo record now for what, 8 years? 6 years?
It's been a while.
That. And the thing is, there was another thing that kind of bugged me, and I don't think I hope it wasn't intentional. But I've had a few fans come up to me that took it from in an intentional way. Like, I guess Tommy had a birthday party in I don't know if they were in Hawaii, they were somewhere exotic, or Fiji or some shit. And John Five was at the party, and he was sitting there playing guitar on the beach, and Tommy's videotaping him, and John is playing some really cool, like, jazzy chords, and he's doing all these great fills. And Tommy Tommy makes a comment in it where he says, "Now that's real talent." And this was literally like days after they made the announcement with Mick.
Wow.
And I just felt like, and some of the fans that like I said, I was just in Europe and Wales and, or, England and all these places. And a lot of the fans picked up on that and said, "What did he mean by that?" I go, "Well, obviously I'm not in the video. I wasn't there. So I can't vouch for Tommy. He probably just a bonehead statement that he made. But a lot of people took it as Tommy throwing Mick under the bus talent wise. And I at that point I went, man, there's something's, because I took it that way.
Right. Right.
Tommy's excitement for John and saying, "No, that's what real talent is like on guitar," whatever. I go, fuck. Like, that's kind of like kicking somebody when they were down.
Yeah,
You know
kind
what I
of
mean?
a dick move.
I don't want that. Look, dick move, whatever. And Lord knows, Tommy, I love him to death. He's a child in a man's body. He's full of energy. He's got a great heart. He means well, but he does boneheaded things. And I don't know if it was just a boneheaded, not thinking fucking comment, or if there was something, whatever. But a lot of people took it as a kind of a backhand to Mick.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't get as far as that band got before you were there without all those guys contributing. You just don't.
And
Everyone
and
had their own talent.
and that's the thing. Like, I learned firsthand that Motley Crue is Tommy, Nikki, Mick, and Vince. You know what I mean? So whatever. But it's funny now. Like, I'm sitting here looking at, uh, whatever. It doesn't even matter at this point. It's just I just said, and I'm catching flack for it right now as well. But I was just like, they weren't real happy with Mick's creativity in '95.
Right.
And then now I've had people do videos where they tell me I'm wrong. And I go, okay, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll be the first to admit it. But from where I'm standing, I was always under the impression that DJ Ashba played on the bonus tracks of Red, White, and Crew.
Right. That's what we've heard.
I also was under the impression that DJ Ashba played guitar on Saints of Los Angeles. And I was under the impression that John Five co-wrote and played guitar on the new shit that they just put on that Dirt soundtrack.
Right.
So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it doesn't, the picture doesn't look that way to me.
Right.
Do you know? I kind of feel like, maybe there were some health things. I don't know if Mick wasn't playing, but everybody I talked to that went to shows this last year said Mick was great. But, you know, and I got a friend who will remain nameless that worked that tour that said they were trying to get rid of Mick before the tour started.
Wow.
Or change members before the tour started. Was it a health thing? Don't know. Wasn't there. But I'm just sitting there and I'm looking at all these things in a row and I go, I don't know. Again, I failed on my private investigator's exam. So my, my opinion and a donut is worth $1.25, whatever.
Are they looking at him as like the most, the weak link? They got to have Vince. That's what people want. Tommy's not going anywhere. It's Nikki's band ultimately. I mean, are they looking at him and saying, "Well, that's the one guy we can chop off if we have to"?
I don't know. I don't know what their thinking is. All I know is what they told me in 1995.
Right, and you were there.
We want Mick to do this, and we can't get anything out of him that makes us happy. So I don't know, man. To each his own. Let them figure it out. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm right for Mick's health, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope I have to come do a video and post it on my Facebook page, which I will do. I will videotape myself apologizing to Tommy, Nikki, Vince, their management, everybody involved, and Mick if I'm wrong. But I haven't heard anything. I've reached out to Mick several times, and I haven't heard shit. So whatever.
Wow. Well,
kind of insane.
Yeah, it's definitely a strange situation, that's for sure. And we'll see how these shows do in Europe. I'm sure they'll do well. But I do feel there's a group of fans that they want to see Mick as well. Not, they want to see those four.
Or you know what? Even if they said, you know what, Mick's health won't allow him to fly to Europe, but
fair enough.
We're going to use John Five in Europe. We're going to use Mick in America. Whatever. I don't know. Like everybody I talked to said, yeah, Mick was in pain, but he's been in pain since, honestly, in 92, when I joined the band, he was literally chewing on a half a bottle of Advil a day. Then, so he's been dealing with this for 35, 40 years longer. You know what I mean? So whatever. Again, it's their business. They can do whatever they want. I'm just a speck of dust in the grand scheme of everything Motley. Um, you know, and again, like I said, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll be the first to admit it. Whatever.
So I want to step away from Motley for a little bit now that we've been on it for a while. And doing our research, I come across some pretty interesting footage of your son on the drum kit.
Right. He's your drummer in your solo band, right?
Yes.
The apple didn't fall far from the tree.
You know what? He's a good kid. He's had some little missteps here and there. He's a good kid. Um, I'm really proud of him. He's kind of turned his life around the last 6, 7, 8 years. He's got a beautiful girlfriend, beautiful kids. Just wants to work playing his drums. He's responsible, or trying to be. Um, and I don't know what video you're referring to, but he's self-taught.
Golly.
Tommy actually got him started. Tommy got him a little mini kit when he was like, I don't know, 6 years old, 7 years old, whatever. Let me see, 80, 87, 94. So yeah, he's probably 6 or 7 years old. And I left to go on tour, and he had the kit. And my wife at the time set up a little area of this room in the back of the house with his kit and a stereo. And he would literally just go out there and listen to, Stone Temple Pilots and Soundgarden and all this other shit. And he literally just kind of figured out, all right, that's the bass drum, here's the snare, that's the hi-hat. And he figured out all the fills, and he just kind of taught himself. He's not schooled at all, but he's got great timing. And, now he just wants to get out. If dad isn't going to be ready to play for a while, he wants to go find a band that will actually, give him the opportunity to go out and play his drums for a living.
Well, you can't blame him for that. He wants to get out there and jam. But I think I'd wait for Dad.
No, look, dad got some things. Again, I'm doing. I first of all, I got to get my home studio set back up. I took it down for a minute, but I got to get it set back up. I got an album to finish. I'm still doing book shows. I do have some acoustic shows coming up this year, but I'm actually in the process too. I can't really go into too much detail, but I'm in the process of developing a TV show, um, so where I'm going to kind of be on both sides of the camera. Um,
Oh,
so
cool.
there's a lot going on with me, and I want to get my band together. I'm literally, it's the beginning of a new year, so I'm just trying to put all the pieces into place, figure out the map, and then execute. But I just told Ian, I said, look, if you can get out there now and get out and start playing and making some money, I don't know when I'm going to be ready, but I want to get stuff done and be ready this year. So in the meantime, go find something to do and kick it in the ass.
So you don't have a tentative release date or a time frame for that album, do you?
No, you know what happened, dude? It's so weird. Like, I started recording at Marty's studio, Marty Fredrickson. Then COVID hit. That was 3 years. Then you know, to be honest with you, I kind of started writing the book. Then I took Pro Tools classes, on like online Zoom classes, and I started to record myself. But again, I'm a novice, beginner. Um, the stuff that I've recorded actually sounds pretty good. Like, even before I give to Marty, I've played it for a few musician friends of mine, and they're like, wait, dude, you recorded this at your house, like on a laptop? And I go, yeah. So I'm a little of a slow learner. I'm figuring it out. But I've just been trying to record everything myself. And then as I finish the song, send them to Marty. We've stockpiled a few things, but at the same time, like, um, then COVID started lightening up a little bit. And at that point, I just wanted to get back to work. I needed to get out there and start making money like the rest of the world. And I just kind of put everything on hold. Now it's like, all right, now I've kind of figured out how I can go do shows and I can work and get my shit done. The book's done. Now I want to work on finishing my record and getting it out there and just finishing it once and for all.
Yeah, for
So
sure. I know the your Unplugged album. I've been playing that like crazy just over probably the past month because it's just one of those that continues to grow on you. Big
well,
fan
it's
of
funny too because I was beating myself up and I was looking at it like somebody said, "Oh yeah, that acoustic record came out in 2013," and I went, "Holy shit! Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I did a record in 2013, and then like I'm still working on my solo record. That's 10 years." And I was just like, "Oh my god! Like I'm literally becoming Axl Rose in Chinese Democracy. I need to, I need to move a little faster." And then my wife interrupted me and she goes, "Hey, dumbass, you're not counting the 3 or 4 records you did with the Dead Daisies."
right.
Right.
And, you know, and I went, "Oh, okay. That made me feel a little better, you know." So, and then I recorded a live album on top of that. So,
Yeah.
at 5 year span, or 10 year span, I've done like, if you include all the shit with the Daisies, I did like 6 records. So I'm like, oh, okay, I feel a little better now.
Right, right.
You weren't just sitting around. You were busy.
Yeah, I did a book, and now I'm producing myself. So okay, I'm not a total slug on the fucking, in the garden.
Do
Right.
you have one song over your career that you just absolutely just it blows your mind every time you think about the fact that you wrote it or that you listened to that just sticks out as like your favorite?
I can't say that. There's a few that I can tell you that I don't like. Um, um, that I kind of feel like I could have spent a little more time working on. Um, uh, but I again, dude, I don't have regrets. Like I'll do a record, and like I said, I do the best that I can. Sometimes the process is slow. Um, for example, a song. It's been a while. I put out a song called "Your Own Worst Enemy,"
Hmm.
and that song, it was like I riff and I was doing this, and but I just felt like the chorus was never right. And then I recorded again, being slow and being new to Pro Tools. Like Marty used to laugh at me because he's like, "Well, dude, just erase the chorus and do a new chorus." And I go, "I don't know how to cut the fucking guitar parts, dude." So anytime he'd say, "I don't think the chorus is right," I would literally erase the entire song, everything,
Oh
and then
wow.
because I still to this day, as I'm speaking to
Yeah.
you, I still don't know how to edit what they call the wave files
Hmm.
of like a guitar or a vocal. Like
Right.
I couldn't clip that word out and put a different word in and make it smooth, and I don't know how to do that. So when somebody goes, "Yeah, I don't think that ending is right," I go, "Fuck, all right,
I got it
really."
all over.
Here
And
goes the whole song.
yeah, I re-record the entire song. Um, so it takes me a little bit longer, but like I did "Your Own Worst Enemy" 3 times. Uh, I did it 3 times until I had it right, and then I sang it. I did like harmony vocals. I did all the guitar solos, and then I sent it off to Marty. So I'm being productive, just a little slower rate, but I don't really regret anything that I've done. Um, I think they're all awesome. Um, I think there are a few songs I think Father, Mother, Son from the Scream album. Just I have no idea how that happened, but it was literally the universe gave me that gift and it just dropped in my lap. And I think I wrote that whole song in an hour. And I took it to the studio the next day. And I still to this day, I just sit there and I go, what the fuck? Like, how did that happen? It's lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, the unplugged version is absolutely fantastic.
And I can thank my buddy D.A. Carcos for that. He's a harmony genius. He could literally find harmony vocals that Queen forgot in Bohemian Rhapsody. Like he's like, so he really was really super helpful in putting a lot of those, because I kind of wanted like an Eaglesy, like the band the Eagles, like kind of a vibe to it, and I think we achieved it. But
I think "Open Your Eyes" is very, very Eagle-esque on that unplugged album.
Oh, that's and it's funny because it's still to this day, like, I forgot about that song. You're mentioning it now, and I went, oh, I had to think about it for a minute. I go, oh fuck yeah, Open Your Eyes.
Yeah.
But I think Father, Mother, Son was lightning in the bottle. I think Misunderstood was really awesome because it
A great
just
song.
the amount of shit that's in that thing, like the guitar tracks, the vocals, Glenn Hughes, a 53-piece orchestra. It just really showed four guys that were just in sync, really at the height, and work like all four parts working for the same goal. Um, uh, I think probably from Union, I would have to say October Morning Wind uh, is another favorite of mine. I just think lyrically it's very poetic. It colors a picture, and again, it was just lightning in a bottle. Like Bruce showed me these two parts. I reversed them, and then I wrote the verses on the part that he thought was the chorus. I wrote the verses on that and the chorus on the other part that he thought was the verse. So that just worked. And then for me now, as much I love Your Own Worst Enemy, but I really love the first song that I released, called Così Bella, and that was a song that a lot of people didn't. When I was playing it on acoustic guitar on the demo, a lot of people didn't understand what I was hearing, and I just uh, taken the Pro Tools classes, and I went, I've always wanted to write a song that was reminiscent of Penny Lane and Killer Queen. Just a straight up rock pop song. So I sat down. I literally did the beauty of having Pro Tools. I literally did, because I do not play piano fluently, but I literally did. I went gang, 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 gang. I played that chord. Then I moved my fingers to the next chord, punch, bang, bang. And I did all the chords and I put them together so it flowed like a song. And then I built that whole song around the piano part. You know, I did the vocals. I had my same buddy, D.A. Carcos, come down and help me with the backing vocals. And then I sent it off to Marty. And as soon as everybody heard it, they went, oh, okay, I get it. So that one I'm proud of as well, because A, I recorded it myself,
Right.
and B, it was a song that a lot of people didn't understand what the fuck I was trying to do. So I like that one too.
Right.
I gotta add Crash to that list too. That's another one of my favorite ones.
And just
Thank
so
you.
people know, when you talk about Bruce, you mean Bruce Kulick.
Yes, not the
Right.
other Bruce.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Petra in the chat is asking, which song do you enjoy most playing live?
Band
I know one.
acoustically. Because I think acoustically, again, it's really weird. Father, Mother, Son just resonates with so many different people. I've literally had people come up to me at the end of a show and go, I just lost my son. Like, there was a woman in Indiana that came to see me at the firehouse in Richmond. And she's there every time I play. And every time I play, I do Father, Mother, Son. And every time I play it, she just sits there in the front and she bawls her eyes out because she unfortunately lost her son. And it clicked with her. Same in Europe. I just played it and, you know, had people go, "Oh, I just lost my dad," or "I just lost my mom," or "I just," and so everybody gets out of it what they want. I think from a heavy point of view, that one, but one of the ones that I love playing live is I love doing Dead and Gone by the Dead Daisies. I do a acoustic version of it, and it's just awesome because I tell the audience, I kind of fuck with everybody, and I go, you know, you bitches are going to do this backing vocals, and I just have fun with it, and I tell them what they got to sing, and every night I do it. Every night, every person in the place sings it, and it's just a fun song to do.
Do you still do Seasons of Wither?
On occasion,
because that's really good the way you do that.
And again, there's kind of a rhyme and reason for everything that I do, and I tell the story about how I met Steven Tyler, and
great story.
And it was, so I tell this whole thing, and I'm still not playing it right because he did some weird ass tune, but I was so enamored with the fact that I was talking to him and sitting on a couch next to him, and he was Seasons of Wither, and then he handed me the guitar and we played it together. But for the life of me, 25 years later, I don't remember the tuning. So I just do it, and I do it my way. It's easy. It's like, at this point, I'm too old to change, so fuck it. But it's oddly enough, it's a song that a lot of people don't recognize. I've actually had a few people go, "Oh, I really like that original Seasons of Wither." I'm like, dude, that's second era. Like, you need to listen to that record. It's awesome.
Right, that's a deep track.
Yes, but one of my favorites.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I remember seeing Motley and Aerosmith together at the Hollywood Bowl. I think it was the Hollywood. Yeah, it was the Hollywood Bowl, and they just came out, sat on two chairs. Joe played the 12 string, and they did Hangman's Jewelry and Seasons of Wither.
Jeez.
And I was sitting there going, I was just blown away. The purity of Steven's voice, just that voice, those songs, and a 12-string acoustic guitar was brilliant.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Anybody out there that you haven't collaborated with that you would really, if you had your one chance to collaborate with them, that you would?
Absolutely. I would love to write with, Jimmy Page, Paul McCartney, and Steven Tyler.
Perfect.
You better hurry.
Pardon me?
You better hurry.
Yeah, I know. Oh, and Brian May if he's not busy.
Yeah,
right.
No
and you
doubt.
talk about in the book meeting him as well. That was a fun story too. You talk about meeting him.
Yeah, it was weird, dude. Like it was such a weird fluke thing. This was when I was in the Scream. I can't remember. It was we signed. We were one of the first bands they signed. I think they had signed another band from San Francisco called T-Ride. And then they signed Queens, like they did the back catalog and then their Innuendo record. And they had this massive party for them. And it was funny, as Queen was walking in, I was kind of like too deep in this line. The seas parted, and here they come. And obviously, Freddie was sick. John Deacon didn't come. It was just Roger Taylor and Brian May. And I was literally just sitting there in the back of the line like a giddy little schoolgirl because I had seen Queen 5 times with Freddie.
Wow.
And so they walked in, and Brian just happened to, like, he's walking, he's waving, he's going like this, and he just kind of looked over and he waved, and he kept walking, and he stopped, and he came back, and he pointed to me, and he waved. And I'm looking around like, me? Like, me? And he goes, yeah, hey, dude. And he goes off, and so everybody's looking at me like, how the fuck do you know Brian May? I go, I don't. I've never met. And then at the end, if you read the book, like, Walt and I wound up hanging out with Brian and Roger for a little bit. We asked him about it, and he goes, "Oh no, dude, I thought you were somebody else." But it was like for a minute I was like, "Oh, maybe he knows who we are," like maybe the record told him about us. I don't know, but it was definitely a lovely evening.
Well, John, we're gonna getting close here to bringing this to an end. So
We
I
could talk for
definitely, yeah, we could keep going for hours, but I want to thank you again for jumping on with us. This has been incredible for both of us. I know you get to do all these things, all the time that you want. I want to thank everybody who was in the chat tonight. Thank, of course, Kathy and Jason at Bad Company Barbecue, Kathy at Music and More Records. Ace and I will be back again next week, or we might just let this interview stew for a couple weeks because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people wanting to know what John had to say. But again, thank you. If you have any last words, we'll let you say a couple.
No, honestly, dude, thank you guys for all the support. Thank you guys for the invite to chat with you tonight. And stay tuned. I'm going to try. I know I keep saying it every year. It's one of my New Year's resolutions. I'm going to start trying to be a little more proactive with the whole social media thing. But, thank you guys for all the support. And there's some really cool stuff coming. And I will post it. I'm on johncorabi.com, John Corabi official, blah, 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 whatever. I will
all the above. Well, we're definitely looking forward to hearing some more about the tour and your record and everything. John, if you would stay on the line with us real quick, I'll bring it to a close. Ace, do you have anything to say?
just thanks for responding to the emails and chatting with us. It's been great. I've been looking forward to this for a month.
Obviously, you don't have cable TV.
All right, everybody. We will be back next week. If not the week after that, and if not, maybe in a month. I don't know. I'm TBT. That guy's Ace. That's John Corabi. And this is the Weekly Pour Podcast. And we're out, guys. See ya.
See ya.